Hi, welcome to the Interaxis YouTube channel and Interaxis.io. Today we're going to take a break from all of our decentralized finance topics and talk about how blockchain and potentially decentralized finance and all the decentralized ledger technologies will affect supply chain. Right, and the supply chain isn't really an industry. Supply chain is something that has to do with everything we buy, everything that gets produced, and everything that moves all over the world. So a few areas where we see that supply chain is going to be impacted by using blockchain and other decentralized ledger technologies. First, what we're going to talk about is the supply chain as products, as goods are moving from one place to another, that part of the supply chain. And here's how we feel it might be impacted and why blockchain is going to make a huge difference here. Is because let's say that we have product, right? And we have product potentially moving between Asia and the United States, right? It's going this way. Here's the Pacific Ocean, right? And you have your products on a boat right here, and it's going across the ocean. They've been loaded up here. They're moving here. Along the way, at any point here out in the Pacific Ocean, these products might be changing hands in terms of changing ownership, changing who's responsible, and therefore payments are going to have to be made, right? So when products get from across this kind of imaginary line out here, what you might have is ownership is moving this way, right? This is ownership, and payment is moving that way. Now, what payment means is payment generates an invoice on one side, which at the current time might be mail, it might be email, it's some sort of PDF a lot of times, and then you have anywhere from a 30 to 90 day wait for payment, right? In which time there's the ownership has to change, but the goods are still out there. Now what you can have out here is some sort of IoT, which is Internet of Things device, some sort of geo caching or geo location device, obviously on the boat, right? I mean, we have Google Maps right now. We have all sorts of maps that know where I am at any one point. So knows where the boat is and knows that at this point, any of the goods here, right? And there might be goods that are owned by multiple people. All of these goods potentially can change hands in terms of change owners, and payments can be made. And the great thing is, if we can wrap this process here via blockchain in some sort of smart contract that all parties agree to, now what can happen is all this process can occur on a blockchain. So what happens is as soon as the boat crosses this line, ownership of these goods automatically changes hands. It happens instantaneously on a blockchain. At the same time, and not only can an invoice be generated, but payment can actually be made. The payment could potentially be escrowed, or it'd be connected to some sort of cryptocurrency wallet. It could be a stable coin, something like that. For the time being, it could be connected to a bank account, and this generates a move from the bank account or something. There could be an escrow account. You could escrow dollars or some sort of or some other currency. So you could escrow US dollars into an account, and then this account can convert that into something like DAI or some other cryptocurrency into the smart contract. When the goods cross this imaginary line, the ownership of the goods change, payment gets made. It could be instantaneously, it could be within 10 days, there could be some other verification system, but we don't necessarily have to do all this business of physically changing ownership, of physically sending out an invoice, whether that's by email or mail, PDF, whatever, and waiting 30 to 90 days while some invoice sits in accounts payable. What also happens is during this time you have some blockchain, whatever it is, whatever chain it is, right? And it could be the Ethereum blockchain. It's probably not going to be Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a little too slow. It could be Ethereum, and someone could build rails for it. It could be something that we've seen like Cadena could be used and could possibly be used in this kind of chain. There are several other blockchains that are vying for this. Maersk and IBM together tried to create a shipping blockchain that they wanted all the folks in the world that were shipping, that were involved in supply chain, to be a part of. But the key is there could be this public blockchain. And the reason it can be public is because things that are on a blockchain, just because they're public doesn't mean they're necessarily unencrypted, right? So you can encrypt all sorts of information on the blockchain to the point that only you and whatever other counterparty you have can decrypt it, right? So you can have very private information, but transparent. I'll write over here. So it can be very private. It can be very transparent, right? So everyone can see the same data, but it doesn't mean anything to you if you don't have the key to kind of decode it. So private, transparent, and immutable. That means that once the goods have moved across here, it's essentially public record. It's done. The goods have moved, the money has moved, it's immutable. Now, if you have to go back and change the transaction, you can move everything again, right? But that's more immutability. So from a record-keeping perspective, from an accounting perspective, from a tax perspective, everyone can hook into the blockchain. So that's why it starts to become really important, right? Because now you have this blockchain, and what you're going to have if you're involved in any sort of supply chain here, right, is you have all this data on this blockchain of goods, of goods moving back and forth, of money changing hands, right? And then you can have the shipping companies accessing it, so they're going to need some sort of key or some sort of user interface, right? You have the accounting companies. You can have potentially the government for tax purposes checking out this blockchain, and they have their own hooks in it. That doesn't mean they can see everything on there. They have to have certain keys and certain ability to encrypt and decrypt data, right? But it's all transparent on this public blockchain that no one can go about changing. Right, so you have shipping companies, accounting, you're going to have the producers, you're going to have the purchasers, or the consumers, anything like that. In here also, now you're going to have ancillary benefits, like you're going to have the ability to do some sort of credit facilities in here. Right? Because now that I know how goods and services are going, this purchaser who bought a good from the producer might say, look, we can't pay this immediately. We need some sort of 30-day credit terms. Well, someone else is going to come in here and say, okay, we'll offer 30-day credit terms because we can actually see the goods moving. We can see your accounts and we can escrow the money in between and make sure we hold on to that for 30 days. So there are products being built right now this is essentially a peer-to-peer lending, right? But going between producer and purchaser, potentially. I said you have the accounting firm, so everyone's going to have to figure out a way to potentially connect to this public record, this public ledger, right? And that's where this is going to be very important for supply chain, because you potentially cut down on time, you cut down on manpower needed in order to produce invoices, send invoices, look over contracts. What you have is an increase in the need of people to understand potentially the code, to take contracts and put them into code. You're going to have these types of companies coming up. You're going to have accountants that understand how to read this and pull this data in. You're going to have shipping companies that understand blockchain and how to utilize it. You're going to have Internet of Things companies that they're going to be putting GPS devices, are going to be other devices that they can watch goods travel around the country, travel around the world, and then produce the requisite systems to create payment, to create change of ownership, provenance, things like that. So that's where it potentially be very important for supply chain, right? Another very important part of supply chain here is being able to track the provenance or track where goods came from. Right, so let's say I'm manufacturing mobile phones, right? I'm manufacturing smartphones, right? And I have some parts coming from China, some from Japan, Singapore, some from the US, some from Africa, wherever it might be, right? I have parts coming from all over the place. And I manufacture my phone, and my phone gets shipped, right? And it turns out there's a problem. There's some sort of problem with the phone. And I determined it was some part that was made, I apologize, I'm not doing this on purpose, but let's say it's some part that was made in China, and I need to single out this part and figure out which of those parts that I need to recall from this phone and replace, right? So what I can do potentially as I'm building this product is all these parts get some sort of number, or the batches get some sort of number, right? And they all get pushed to this immutable blockchain as they're being built. So every part from every place, or every batch of parts gets a number, and I might know that this particular batch right here was the bad one, right? This is the one, and I figure out that all the phones that have this particular batch have a problem. Well, if they've all been written in the blockchain, then I can know probably every serial number that has one of these parts, and I can go to those individual users and recall them and say, hey, we need to replace them with parts from this new batch. And it's really easy for these people, these users, to go on here, and we can create this easy UX that say, hey, if you have serial numbers between X and Y, we're going to send you an email, or you can go to the website and figure it out. Give us your phone back. We're going to replace it with this other part, or we're going to give you a new phone. And we've been able to source it directly, and figure out what the problem was and trace it all the way back, because every part we've had has been the information has been put on blockchain, so we can track it all the way through. We see this used, or the promise of it used with, say, food, right? Because we've had an issue with romaine lettuce recently in this country, and if you have all food, like all lettuce from anywhere in the country produced, and the information goes to the blockchain, and we can figure out exactly, because of that, exactly which lettuce is causing some sort of problems, we can work our way backwards and find out exactly which farm or farms that lettuce came from. And then we can know, look, we don't have to take all lettuce off the market. We only have to take lettuce that came from these farms on these dates off of the market. And it's much more economical and much more efficient to be able to do that. So those are some of the ways that blockchain is going to impact the supply chain. What it means is all these companies along the way in the supply chain, whether it's the suppliers, the shipping companies, right, accountants, again, the government, whoever it is, the people making the IoT devices, everyone is going to have to understand how to interact with the blockchain. And that doesn't mean all these people have to build their own blockchain. What it means is they have to be able to either use or build some sort of user interface, some sort of ability to get data on and off the blockchain in a way that they can use it with the others on the list, so that we can have essentially this global database, this immutable public or public-private immutable, very transparent, very private ledger that everyone can use, but it doesn't allow the information to be out there. It doesn't allow everyone to see the information. It only allows me to see the information if I have the ability to decrypt or decode what's in there. And what it means is no one owns this blockchain. This is public information. What's going to be somewhat controlled is the on and off ramps, the ability to see the data, get the data on, get the data off, and therefore make it useful, right? So you don't have any one company controlling this, and that's what makes it decentralized. It's decentralized, and there's no one company controlling the chain. There's no one company controlling the database. You have this big database out there, and everyone has their own ability, or companies are creating the ability for suppliers and shipping companies and accountants to be able to see the data correctly and see it in the same way. So that's how blockchain and decentralized ledger technology is going to impact the supply chain. Thanks for watching the video. Please contact us. info@interaxis.io is our email address. You can find our website, interaxis.io. Interaxis, the YouTube channel is now YouTube/C/Interaxis, Twitter @Interaxis8. All these different ways to contact us. Please let us know if you like the videos, if you need any help understanding this or any of these products, or what companies are actually creating these that you can get help with. And we hope to see you on future videos.